Hello and welcome to this episode of the Tales from Beyond the Grade podcast. I'm Jedi Teacher Man, and today I am joined again by Professor, Maestra, Teacher Ada Sandoval. And this is a follow-up on our previous episode, and today we're really going to talk about the impact of failure and how we can prepare students for failure, because that's a huge part of what we do in school, and as we know, it's a huge part of life. So, Maestra Sandoval, where would you like to start?
I think I would like to talk about the failure for certain cultures. And I know sometimes this is a topic I address a lot because I have worked, again, as I have already mentioned, with students from so many different countries and from so many different cultures. Me, myself, coming from Mexico, I was educated, I was raised with a different perspective, with a different vision. So I have a lot of students that are terrified to fail. And I think we talked about this. I was watching a podcast the other day and learning about students, for example, in South Korea. And it broke my heart to know that in South Korea, for example, there's so much pressure to be perfect, to be the best student with the best grades, that if you're not allowed or you don't pass the tests to go to college, to one of the top 10 colleges, every 6 to 7 minutes, there is a student actually, doing something about hurting themselves. And
To the level of fatality.
Yes, to
Wow.
the level of fatality, just because failing for them means to let their families down.
Right.
Not only them, their families, like
So
the whole legacy.
It literally is life or death.
Yes,
it literally is life or death.
Their whole legacy.
Wow.
And that is the part of failure that I think sometimes when we're working with multicultural students coming from different cultures, sometimes we don't understand that for some of them, it's such a burden, and it's not discomfort anymore. It's not discomfort anymore. It's just, if I don't graduate, if I'm not the best, if I'm not getting like all A's, my family, I'm going to let them down.
Yeah.
My whole legacy is going to be let down. And that's why I addressed the situation of failure, because I was asking some of my students over a year ago, why would you cheat? Like, why would you try to, copy paste your assignments or your answers? And they kept saying, because I don't want to fail. I don't want to get a bad grade. Right. Why? Because if I get a bad grade, this goes beyond just me and my grade. This is actually, no, I cannot let my family down. So I rather, cheat than actually not passing.
So again, the grade has become the be all and end all, and the quality of work or anything to get to there is irrelevant, because, like we just said, it's literally life or death. It's like, that's how. So, we've moved into, thankfully, we've moved into a space and time now where self-care is massively important, right? I actually was having a conversation with an old friend back in England. He's not as old as me. He's not an old friend. He's a friend. You get me, right? So, and he won't mind me talking about this, but he's, he's done really well. He's worked really well. He's in sales, and I was talking to him this morning about this. And he says, I'm earning good money. The pressure to have my sales team perform is like right up there. It's like I'm getting the Sunday evenings. I'm dreading going to work on a Sunday. I get that kind of feeling you had when you had to go to school on a Sunday. Sunday night, you're like not looking forward to Monday morning. And he's saying that his like regional manager or who is above him is like, he's earning a lot of money as well, and he's pressuring him to pressure his team. And we had this, and I actually, I said to him, I said, well, surely the guy above you should be nurturing you to nurture your team.
Yes.
Instead of screwing the bolt. I mean, there's only so much, it's like the old day, there's only so much blood you're going to squeeze out of a stone, right? And it doesn't work. So what's going to happen? You're going to be exhausted, if not mentally just blown.
Right. And
leave. And then they get someone else. And is this what we're doing? Is this what human resources are? Which is my least favorite term on that. I mean, we've changed so many terms. Can we really not refer to humans as resources and just dehumanize the whole thing, even though you put the word human in there? I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. But that's what he is.
Right.
He's a human resource that is an expendable resource, because the minute he hands his notice in or can't come in, they'll replace him in a week. And he'll bend over backwards to perform. And teachers are the same, right? We do our thing. We love what we do. We go the extra mile. And the moment you start to feel, well, the school can't operate without me. Yes, they can. They can operate without you.
I'm so glad also. Sorry.
But it's just sad. I know. Sorry, just let me finish. And it's just sad that the culture that we have in elementary school is that nurturing culture, right? It's like the greenhouse, the hothouse. That's where we sow the seeds and we let these things germinate, and we get to a point where then you can put them out in the garden. They can fend for themselves, right? The weather comes, but they've developed the strong roots, right? But we're not always sending kids off to middle school or high school with those roots developed. But how discomfortable, it's going to be a new word, right? Discomfortable is telling a parent, you know what, your kid needs to stay behind another year. Because that is such an insult, isn't it? It's such an insult. And the kid doesn't know, right? And the kid doesn't know, because this is the challenge we have all the time. The kids don't know why we're pressing them so hard or pushing for greatness in them.
Right.
Because they don't realize the consequence of not getting those skills until it's 8th grade. And then it's a case of, I'm completely lost now. I've nowhere to go. And I hate to say this, but there can be hopeless situations.
Right.
Because they can't see the future in 4th or 5th grade when they're looking ahead. We've seen it. We know what it looks like. We tell them time and time again. Every kid knows better. I did, you did. We all knew better than our parents, and we were going to be the different ones. We're not. So going back to, you've got your students in college who are going to go into the workplace. Wouldn't it be fabulous if workplaces had the same mentality towards failure, as in, or mistakes, or the fact that we expect you to, we're hiring you with a 70% expectation that you're going to deliver. And the other 30%, we're going to help you get better, rather than this constant fear, if I fail, I'm going to get fired.
I have a great story, actually. I was reading on Harvard Business Review a few weeks ago because I specialize in organizational behavior. And I'm always so interested from the time I went to college for the first time in the 90s. My area of expertise is public relations. So understanding that it's my passion. And I was reading, and you're going to love this, I was reading an article about how there are organizations and companies, mostly in the US for now, in which they are starting to deal with failure exactly in the way that you're mentioning.
Oh.
The article said that this new gear, this new change that their organizations are having is into, instead of punishing or firing, teams that commit or actually that make mistakes, is actually, when we use this, there's a new way in doing business, which is called agile, in which you do not let things go all the way through a failure over months, but you actually have iterations, short iterations, like monthly, weekly, sometimes it's weekly, to actually evaluate how we're doing in short-term periods. So that allows teams to identify mistakes and failures before they become, or before the result can really negatively affect an organization. So anyway, the point is, there are now organizations that are starting to deal with failure in a different way. What I'm trying to say is, okay, if this is not working, let's analyze together in a collaborative team to understand what's happening. And let's use our creative thinking skills to try to come up with solutions right now, every week, every 2 weeks before this moves on. And no one is going to get fired. No one is going to get, like their salary, affected or anything, because we are trusting that we're hiring creative, innovative, high-skilled people that are going to be able to find an answer. So again, if we're talking about failure and if we're talking about discomfort, that begins, and if we want to see this in schools happening, this also has to be reflected in organizations. Right. Otherwise, there's no link. There's a gap. I told you, right, today when we were talking about education and the working environment, there's a gap.
Right.
Because what's the point of teaching our students about, it's okay to make mistakes, if they're going to go to a company or an organization in which if they make a mistake, they're going to get fired. Right? So,
or a letter of reprimand. Or yeah, absolutely.
So this has to have a continuity. So even though this podcast is about education, like systems thinking, everything is connected. And we're connected to organizations, we're connected to working environment, we're connected to families, we're connected to everything. And I hope, again, that this article that I just read about, when I read it, I was thinking like, oh, thank you. Thank you. Because yes, if we still keep seeing in organizations failure as a chance for me to fire you, then there's no match. We're not being coherent in what we are teaching our students in the classrooms, right? Correct. It doesn't make sense.
Correct.
It wouldn't make sense. So anyway.
And that leads me on to, and we'll talk about this next, is what can we do differently in school to specifically and intentionally teach some of the skills that kids really need to work together better.
Collaboration.
Coming up next.
I love it. All right.
So we just talked about problems that we can face in the workplace, and what I'd like to just wrap up this episode with is a conversation on, are there ways that we can do a better job of, I want to first of all disseminate social and emotional learning, which often is just talked about as, the social emotional piece, as we'll just integrate that in there somewhere, and there's no real plan for it. A lot of the time, yes, there's a social emotional curriculum, and we do that either standalone, so it isn't integrated, but then the hope is that the pieces that we learn and we front load then become teachable moments in the moment. And just the fact that the social emotional piece goes through me all the time. It's like social skills are, and the data has to be out there, but the street data's there, because any teacher I work with, and I could give it, is the social skills are not there. And this isn't blame. This isn't pointing fingers at anyone. This is things that have to be learned. They have to be taught. We're having recesses where I see anything from 70 kids to 140 kids out on a playground, with 3 or 4 members of staff who often aren't teachers. They're paraeducators, and they're great, and we absolutely love them. But you're trying to teach social skill. It's like trying to play a football game and coach it while you're trying to win the game.
Oh, at the same time.
Right. While you're trying to win the game. Right? It's not practice. It's not like you're having practice Monday to Friday and then you play the game on the Sunday, and it's a case of, okay, let's go and play the game and practice what we practice. Where it's like, kids need that social aspect. And I often wonder, like, do they? I mean, yes, they do, but do they need it in the way that they're getting it? Because we're getting referrals galore from, and I'm talking my school specifically, I'm talking across the nation, right? Historically, we're getting office referrals from the playground, and it's SEL, social emotional learning. Well, emotional learning or social learning? What is it, right? So in the workplace, you need social skills. Right. You need collaboration is the word you brought up before. Being able to collaborate, being able to take on someone else's idea and not be upset and go crying because they didn't like my idea. And it's like, no one didn't like your idea. It's just that it was a great idea. It wasn't the right idea for this particular moment. There was nothing wrong. No one was having a go at you. And you know, if you want to break that down to an elementary level, I could say like, hey, Joey, great job with your homework the other day. And then somewhere, what about me? And it was like, what about you? Why's that coming? I was talking to Joey and a specific thing he just did. Do I have to have that conversation in private with him? Can't I just publicly say he did a great job and you all be happy that for whatever reason he's just got an accolade? You respect that. It doesn't always have to be about you. What
is this emotional intelligence? I go back to the character strengths.
Absolutely. And I understand that emotions need to be controlled in order to be social.
Right. Oh,
right. You have to control your emotions in order to be social.
I love this.
But they're not always. There's emotional intelligence with a growth mindset. Exactly. There's emotional intelligence with taking feedback. It's not a social thing. It's just emotionally intelligent, right?
Correct.
Hey, you did a great job with, and this, the 1 Minute Manager, Ken Blanchard from years ago, but the praise sandwich, that's why we have that, right? Hey, Joey, you did a great job with such and such yesterday. I really like the way you did that. Just wanted to talk about your homework. Wasn't great. I think you could do better with that. And here's how you could do better. And, great, good luck with the soccer game today. You're going to really rock it because, you know, you always do, right? So you just stick it in the middle.
There's
right?
the sandwich.
And there's the sandwich, right? But we have to have that strategy because I can't just walk up to Joey and say, hey, Joey, your homework, what went wrong?
Of course
because I know you can do better than that, right? And that should be enough. But we have to come up with strategies that are always about, and when it's coming from an adult to an adult, right? You know, when a supervisor comes up to you and goes like, "Hey, Glenn, I really like the way you did such a thing," and however, and it's like Office Space, if you could just go ahead and do such and such, that'd be great, and it's like, don't do it. Don't embarrass me because it's like so condescending. With kids, you get away, with kids, that's the way to do it. But I don't know. I've not seen a lesson on how to take feedback. I haven't seen it. Or how do we build that skill of taking? It's a skill, taking feedback and not being demolished by it. I see kids get so down, and it's sad. It's like, you're going to do better. I'm giving you this today to make tomorrow great. Yeah.
I have to add, because my students know that this is one of my favorite topics, how to deal with feedback. And I think you just mentioned something so important. I think most of us teachers assume that all students know what feedback means. And I'm talking about adults, not even about children.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I have had to actually stop my class and make sure students understand what is the purpose and the objective of feedback, being able to put their emotions aside, because our instinct is going to make us defend ourselves. Every time we receive feedback, our instinct is, I'm doing something wrong. I'm being, I'm being told something is wrong. Therefore, our instinct is going to be to defend ourselves. So instead of listening to the feedback, we focus and we put all our energy in defending ourselves.
Right.
So we're not listening to the feedback anymore. If you are telling a student, you know what, I believe you can still improve on this, in their minds, it's like, but that's not true. I'm doing my best. Why is she upset? Why is she telling me this? She doesn't know everything I went through to. So they're not listening.
Right. No.
When you let
Right.
your
It's
emotion, right?
reptilian brain, right? You're in defensive mode, right? Yeah.
But then once I have explained to students, and my students know this, they're going to be laughing when they watch this episode. Sometimes on purpose, I have them prepare a very quick draft in class and stand up in front of their classmates to present a draft, bring a notebook, and be ready just to receive feedback. That's the purpose of that presentation. It's not to, present a final, it's not, no. The objective is, calm down, and let's practice how to listen, no one is attacking you.
Right.
And when we learn that we're here to help each other, and this is actually happening in organizations. In organizations, when we have collaboration, you are actually expected to raise your hand and tell, you know what, I believe we can probably do this in a different way. Oh, great, wonderful. And you take notes, right?
Yeah.
So again, there's the gap that we were talking about before. I think, and I'm speaking for myself and for teachers, at least for graduate and postgraduate students, we assume that the students know what feedback is. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
And I believe it could be amazing if we teachers could understand that just guiding them a little bit, it won't take you more than 15 minutes to explain to our students, no one is attacking you. Our purpose is to help you. And again, I go back to if we're going to fail, we're going to fail here together in a safe space. So we're going to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. So feedback, wonderful topic.
And I actually think it's happening. I do believe it's happening. I go into classrooms all the time, and I see some great things.
I'm so happy for you.
I know that the teachers are doing their bit to do that. I guess this is the call to action for parents here, right? Please let your kids know that feedback is brain food, right? We're feeding you food. Feeding you brain food when we give you this information to help your brain grow. It isn't to slap you across the face with a wet fish, right? It's to just cultivate growth and eliminate what a term I love is faulty logic, right? When a kid thinks it's this and they constantly get stuck in, and it's a faulty logic. It's a case of let's fix that. Let's fix that fault. Let's repair. And we're just making you stronger, and we're putting you back together again, or anything like that. I don't know how it works for different kids. And I know it's happening, but I still see kids that have just had that bounce off them all the time. And it's like, why are they not letting it in? Yeah, why are they not letting that feedback in? Why are they not open to... And you're right, adults the same.
Right.
We see it in faculty meetings sometimes.
Exactly.
That feedback is... So a comment is made and you walk out and one teacher will go like, I didn't... So we're doing this and this now, are we? And I was like, I didn't hear that. But...
Right.
It got taken in that way.
Again, reptilian brain, right? You're trying to defend yourself. You don't have to defend yourself all the time.
Right.
Maybe there are
moving
situations.
forward. It's all about moving forward, right? A bit like my good friend Rocky said about how, taking the hits and moving forward and taking the hits and moving forward. The only thing is we're not hitting you. No. We're feeding you. It's like take the food and grow and move forward and, take all the good stuff. Well, thank you so much. This has been great conversation. I think we went into spaces that we didn't realize we were going to go, which is the wonder of podcasting.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm certain that we'll be chatting again.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll be very happy to be back, and I'm always very, very happy to have these discussions. I hope also if there is any other topic that you will also like us maybe to discuss or to talk about, feel free to mention in the comments, okay? Or maybe either me, Mr. Jenkins, always mention those topics that you might be interested, to hear about or to have us discuss. And I'm sure also you have other guests actually coming up, right?
We do all the time.
Very good. Very good. So thank you very much. And I'll see you again in the future.
Thank you so much. And that's it for this episode of the Tales from Beyond the Grade podcast. And may the force of teaching and learning be with you always. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Tales from Beyond the Grade podcast with me, Jedi Teacher Man. Please hit the like button and subscribe to this podcast channel. You can also follow me at Jedi Teacher Man on Instagram, subscribe to Jedi Teacher Man on YouTube, and for us TikTokers out there, follow Beyond the Grade podcast. Thank you so much, and I look forward to you tuning in again very soon.